Chapter 1: The Trigger for Kiev's Counteroffensive near Pokrovsk. In the history of war, there have always been moments when a battle, a city, or even just a hill became the focal point that shaped the entire situation on the front. For the war in Ukraine in August 2025, the city of Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region was such a trigger. Pokrovsk, a name not unfamiliar to international observers, is a city with an important strategic position. Located in the west of the Donetsk region, Pokrovsk is considered the gateway to protect Ukraine's defense line against fierce pressure from Russia. Over the past several months, this place has witnessed the rapid movement of soldiers, equipment, and most importantly, battles for every meter of land. So why did Kiev choose August 15, 2025 to launch a counteroffensive that was considered fierce near Pokrovsk? The reason is not simply a matter of political will, but also reflects careful calculation of tactics, spirit, and messages sent to both allies and opponents. 1. Pressure from many directions. In the previous weeks, Russian forces have continuously increased pressure on Donetsk, especially around the Pokrovsk area. They used familiar tactics, concentrated artillery, gradually approaching, and trying to penetrate deep into the enemy's defense line with lightning attacks. However, like a spring that has been compressed for too long, Kiev cannot just retreat and endure. When Russia presses, Ukraine understands that if it doesn't counterattack, it will lose the initiative, lose the trust of the people and even of its Western allies. An easy-to-imagine example: if a football team is constantly pushed into its own half and cannot counterattack, the audience will lose faith that the team is strong enough to turn the situation around. Ukraine is the same. They need a fierce counterattack to prove that they are not exhausted. 2. Tactical calculation. Pokrovsk is not only a military hotspot but also a symbolic one. If Kiev successfully counterattacks here, it will be like a declaration to the world: Ukraine is still in control of the situation and has the ability to turn the tide. From a military perspective, the counterattack near Pokrovsk is also aimed at breaking Russia's soft encirclement, cutting off the momentum of the attack and forcing the opponent to disperse its forces. Imagine simply, a fighter is continuously throwing punches but suddenly receives a strong counterattack. He will be forced to retreat, cover, and lose the overwhelming rhythm. 3. Political will and national spirit. In addition to the tactical factor, Kiev's political will cannot be ignored. Any counterattack, especially in Pokrovsk, has a great impact on the morale of the whole nation. The Ukrainian people, tired after many years of war, need an optimistic signal that the government and the army are still fighting. Like in famous war movies, there is always a scene of soldiers standing up shouting, "Charge!" That is the spirit that Kiev wants to convey. 4. Foreign impact. Another reason that is less mentioned but extremely important: sending a message to the West. Support from the US, the European Union, and many other countries depends in no small part on Ukraine proving that it can effectively use military support. A strong counterattack in Pokrovsk is the most convincing response. No one wants to invest in a team that only knows how to defend. Ukraine knows this, and they need to show that they not only receive weapons, but also know how to turn them into battlefield advantages. 5. Connecting to historical context. If we look back at history, we see that many cities that once played the role of gateway became turning points in wars. For example, in World War II, the Battle of Stalingrad was not only a fierce battle, but also a symbol of resistance. Pokrovsk today, to some extent, evokes that spirit. Thus, the first chapter has outlined the whole picture of why Kiev chose August 15, 2025 to launch its fierce counteroffensive near Pokrovsk. This was not just a military move, but a combination of tactics, politics, spirit, and even foreign factors. Chapter 2: Specific developments and important factors. If in Chapter 1 we have gone into the overall picture of the war situation in the Donetsk region, specifically the Pokrovsk front, then in Chapter 2, let's delve into the detailed developments, the military, political, and psychological factors that made Kiev's counterattack so fierce. 1. Pokrovsk, the fateful crossroads. Pokrovsk is not a big city like Kiev, Kharkov, or Odessa. However, its location is like a crossroads in eastern Ukraine. From Pokrovsk, important road routes connect other cities allowing both Russia and Ukraine to control supplies, military supplies, and even the ability to advance further into enemy territory. A little analogy: if Ukraine is like a house, then Pokrovsk is like the main door. Whoever holds the door can decide which guests can enter and who must stay outside. Therefore, Ukraine's counterattack here is not only a simple military action, but also has a vital strategic meaning. 2. Weapons, equipment, and the numbers game. Western media report that Kiev has deployed many elite brigades to this front, equipped with modern weapons aided by the West. We can mention German Leopard 2 tanks, American Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, HIMARS rocket artillery with long range and high accuracy. However, Russia did not sit still. They responded with heavy artillery, tactical air force, and especially Lancet suicide drones. If we only look at the documents, we can easily get caught up in the so-called numbers game. Whoever has more tanks, whoever has more drones, that side will win. But in reality, war is not as simple as an Excel spreadsheet. Many battles have proven that the human factor, spirit, adaptability, creativity, is what decides the outcome. For example, a Ukrainian platoon with only a few artillery shells and a Javelin anti-tank gun can still slow down the advance of a Russian motorized convoy for hours. On the contrary, a Russian unit with only drones and accurate intelligence is enough to cause heavy losses to the enemy. 3. Psychological warfare and public opinion. In addition to weapons, modern warfare is also a war of information. Russia continuously releases videos recording the destruction of Ukrainian tanks. Meanwhile, Kiev broadcasts images of Ukrainian soldiers raising flags on newly recaptured positions. Both sides want to send a message. Russia, we are still strong. We are constantly attacking. Ukraine, we are not weak. We are even counterattacking fiercely. This puts international public opinion in a state of half believing, half doubting. And that ambiguity also creates psychological pressure for both sides on the battlefield. 4. Comparison with history. Stalingrad 2.0 version? Many experts have compared Pokrovsk to a miniature Stalingrad. Why? Because both are hotspots that, if controlled by either side, will change the entire situation of the war. If in 1942, Nazi Germany was defeated in Stalingrad, and there began a long series of defeats, then in 2025, Pokrovsk could also become the turning point of the Russia-Ukraine war. The difference is only this: instead of T-34 tanks and Mosin rifles, now war also involves drones, modern missile systems, and global media battles. Chapter 3: Meaning, Impact, and Future of the Battle of Pokrovsk. After analyzing the events, let's move on to the most important part: the meaning and long-term impacts of the Battle of Pokrovsk on Ukraine, Russia, and the world. 1. For Ukraine, political. If the counterattack is successful, Ukraine will have more prestige to call for international aid. The Kiev government will prove that they can not only hold out, but also strike back. Military. Holding Pokrovsk means holding the door to the east. This will be a springboard for the next campaigns. Social. Victory, no matter how small, will help raise the morale of soldiers and the confidence of the people. 2. For Russia, reputation. If Ukraine successfully counterattacks in Pokrovsk, Russia will be seen as unable to control the key front. This could affect Moscow's position at the international negotiating table. Military. Russia will be forced to deploy more forces, which means they may have to disperse their strength on other fronts. Long-term strategy. A defeat in Pokrovsk could force Russia to adjust its entire offensive plan in the east. 3. International impact. The battle in Ukraine is not just a matter between Ukraine and Russia. It affects the entire security situation in Europe and even the world. Western countries will closely monitor to decide whether to continue to aid Ukraine or not. Meanwhile, other countries also look at this to draw lessons about modern warfare. 4. Predicting the future. Will Pokrovsk become a new Stalingrad? Will Kiev's counterattack turn the tide? The answer will have to wait for history to decide. But one thing is certain: this battle opened a new chapter for the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and the world will have to talk about it for many years to come. If you find this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to History&War channel to continue following, analyzing, and recreating important historical events and wars in the world.